Hello guys, it's Ray from GuitarGuitar in the meeting room at the headquarters in Glasgow, and today I'm joined down in London at the YouTube headquarters by none other than rock guitar legend Michael Schenker. Hello Michael.
Hello.
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Good, thank you for joining us this morning. It's a real privilege to talk to you.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all, not at all. I think we've got about half an hour. I've got a whole bunch of fun questions here that I've compiled over the last few days, so we'll just jump in and go through some cool stuff. How does that sound?
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. So, I suppose one of the first things that I was wanting to ask you is, you're a very, very influential player. You know, there's people like Metallica guys and Dimebag Darrell and Randy Rhoads. They've all cited you as being a big influence on them. What I wanted to ask was, when you were coming up through the ranks as a young player yourself, what were your first musical influences?
Yeah, it was all the obvious ones, you know. Jeff Beck, Jimmy Page, Eric Clapton, Johnny Mantel, Rory Gallagher, Leslie West, you know, all the great ones from the kind of late 60s, you know. And I actually went guitar hunting to find some that maybe, I don't know, maybe I didn't hear about, you know, when on festivals and stuff like that. But that was my passion, you know, just guitar, lead guitar, you know, that's what I love.
Brilliant. And obviously, through to like today, are there any guitar players and other bands and things that inspire you these days, like in your bands?
Well, I stopped listening to music when I was 17. And I stopped copying when I was 17 because I understood that, you know, that I had a choice to either, you know, recycle what was already out there, or to, you know, like open up myself and show the world how I see it. And you know, basically my focus was on, you know, the art of lead guitar with pure self-expression. But it cannot be done perfectly, of course, because you cannot switch off the lobby, or you cannot switch off the elevator, and you cannot switch off Metallica if you're in Paris and you're putting your new clothes on and you listen to a whole album of Metallica. And that's how I discovered the song The Unforgiven, a fantastic song. And but you know, those are the things, or you know, or something sensational comes to the foreground. You can't escape from it because it comes out of every corner. But you know, I don't, you know, I made a very clear, you know, not to consume, to analyze, or to even show, you know, just when I drive a car, I never switch on the music. I don't even listen to the news. I mean, I just used driving as a meditation to think of new things and stuff, you know. But I drive to Scotland, you know, all the time to make sure the guys up there still know their songs and make sure, you know. But it's basically, yeah.
Yeah, so like it's more a case of allowing like the ideas to find themselves and find their way into you, and you can just kind of like be a conduit for them and put them out yourself.
Yeah, it's the art of lead guitar with pure self-expression. And so when I fell in love with Zeppelin and Deep Purple and Sabbath music, so that metal music, I used it as a screen, and then I put, it's like a painter, you know, I put the art of lead guitar on it, you know, and you know, I always loved the combination of great singer, great guitarist, you know, taking turns.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's a good analogy about making it being about like a painterly sort of thing, because one of the things that I think that you're really great at with your lead guitar playing is it's very colourful, and there's a lot of you mix a lot of melody in with a lot of really detailed playing, and you know, obviously that's part of the reason you're so influential. I was wondering, because a lot of your playing is technical and you know it's not easy to play, do you still find that after all these years you still have to practice a lot?
I actually don't practice. I play and discover. And so the play is important because it's recreational. There are no scoring, there is no competition, there is nothing. It's just joy of playing and discovering new combinations of varieties, you know, that come from within. It's a bit like, you know, like treasure hunting, you know. You enjoy, because you know you're going to find something. You enjoy to walk and look you know, for gold, and then you find it, and you know, and that's basically, it's like play and discover. So when I play, I play the stuff that I know, and then I kind of put together maybe different combinations, etc., etc. And then all of a sudden something magical happens, and then I capture that on a cassette recorder, and then, you know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, and it piles up, and it helps me making an album.
Ah, brilliant! No, that's a good way to do it. You just let discovery be like lead the way, and you just are ready to capture it whenever it's there, right?
Yeah.
So equally influential. I mean, obviously you're playing and your persona and things, but also equally influential is the flying V to your image and your style. What was it about the V-shaped guitar that you took to over the other kind of more classic shapes?
What was it about the V?
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I actually the V actually came to me. I never picked the V, and also I remember something just recently. Something came back, you know, a couple of years ago, that when I was about 14 years old, I was in school, and we had a project to in a workshop to pick something we wanted to build. And of course, I picked the guitar. But what I was actually building, I was building a dry angle guitar, which is basically very similar to the V, you know. And so I always say that you know, that the V came to me because it was based on circumstance. You know, I broke a string on my Les Paul, and I had to grab the next best guitar that was hanging, you know, there, and because a lead break was coming up, so I plugged that guitar into my amplifier, and you know, I had a great combination. And I quickly found out that because of its position, because of its shape, that sitting down it was very easy to play with, but I was putting it between my legs, and I was able to get, you know, like a steady lock it in, you know, rather than a guitar dangling around. It was very stable, and I was able to develop a really heavy vibrator, and so people, you know, and it became an icon position because people think it was something like I worked out, you know, to look good or something, but you know, because there are famous pictures of that, you know, when I was with UFO and stuff like that, and I kept hearing people, oh, that looked so cool and stuff like that. But I never did anything because of that. It was just, there was a reason behind it, you know. I just ended up in this weird position.
And how about the black and white of the V? Because that's as iconic as the shape as well. How did you come across how did that happen?
Black and white kind of came. I used to have a black guitar and a white guitar, and it basically marks the beginning of Michael Schenker Group. You know, it marks the second step, the second stage of my life, to you know, have my own group and to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, how I wanted to do it. And I used to have two, you know, Vs, one black, one white. They both were good, and depending on what I was wearing, maybe I would choose this guitar or that guitar. Anyway, at some point I got the idea. Why not making a black and white V? You know, it just came. I think it came just, that idea developed towards the end of UFO, and then, you know, it became, you know, the trademark of the Michael Schenker Group, you know, for that period.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a very iconic instrument. And I notice nowadays you have several signature models by Dean. So I was wondering, what do you look for in a really great, you know, be it a V, be it whatever, just a great playing guitar? What are the things you really look for as a player?
What are the things I'm looking for as a player on the guitar?
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's basically, I'm not really looking for anything. It's just like, well, you know, it's like a technical player plays runs up and down. He doesn't really need to hear anything because it's in the head, and he knows where everything goes. But what I try to do, the last note always inspires me what to do next. So I have to hear what I'm doing, and of course if I hear 2 or 3 notes I play, it inspires me, you know, what I need to do with the fourth. So if I'm looking for something, I look for something that creates a unusual combination that has an effect on the ear and, you know, the person or myself, that where I go like, wow, that sounds great, you know, and that's worth recording. I capture these pieces, you know, and so it's just the combination and because, you know, the guitar is the best, especially when the distortion came out, like in the you know, when Black Sabbath and Zeppelin and so on, you know, that made that instrument so perfect for, you know, I mean, it's the best instrument to completely express yourself in any direction, because it has so many variations of what you can do with it. You know, you hit the note, you can bend it, you can do the vibrato on top, you can just leave it there and do vibrato, or you can hit it once, you can hit it twice, you stop hitting it, or you have a break. And, you know, it's just, you can add, and you can let it cry and sing, you play up there, you scream, or so you can really express a lot of stuff. And so for me, it's the most complete instrument for that.
Yeah, it is certainly. There's nothing as expressive as a guitar with a lot of drive and a great player playing it. And one of the things I was wanting to ask you about again was, this could have been another one of those things that you just stumbled onto as part of the process, but it's that famous sound of the wah-wah pedal when it's kind of on but sort of halfway off on things like Let Sleeping Dogs Lie and all that. That's a very famous Michael Schenker sound.
Yeah,
Did you
that's
one of those happy accidents?
Yeah, that's something that I discovered because I'm treble sensitive. And the wah-wah pedal, the way you get it out of the shop in those days, when you put it all the way down, it's piercing. I hate that sound. And so I don't know much about technique, but I was curious what it looked like inside the wah-wah pedal, if there's something I could do. So I had the idea, if I could cut out that horrible sound, and I saw this wheel inside, and a thing that puts it in position. So I just found my most favorite sound of the wah-wah and tried to have that sound when I put the wah-wah pedal down. And so that would be that sound. I would instantly have that sound. Instead of having a horrible treble sound, that was gone now, because I changed the wheel to the point that when I pressed the wah-wah pedal down, it had that really nice, sweet sound that I liked, and so I never had to listen to that ugly treble sound again. And that's, you know, that's how I started using it for quite a while. But later, you know, I used it less, because that amplifier that was suitable for that idea, kind of, it actually broke down, you know. In Oakland in 83 or so, 84, and it went to a repair shop. It never came. It came back. I think people took everything out of that amplifier and put rubbish in, and so I didn't have that amplifier anymore. Then I looked for a new one, and I found a different amplifier. And then I was told by somebody in New York, Michael, did you know that you actually designed this amplifier? I said, what? You mean the one I designed in the early 80s when the Marshall people, you know, wanted to build me a Michael Schenker model, and it never got completed. I think we never reached a deal or anything like that. So the paper, the blueprint of that idea was just being filed somewhere. Somebody must have found it and said, oh, here, this is something Michael Schenker started. Well, let's just build it. And the funny thing is, I actually picked that amplifier as a replacement of the other one. And I also noticed that there was a little bit of a wah-wah frequency in that amplifier. And so because of those wah-wah pedals in those days, they were very cheap components. That's why it worked so well, but it broke down very easily. And they got worse and worse, and the guitar and the sound got thinner and thinner. And because the amplifier that I picked that already had a little bit of that frequency in there, it was unbearable. I couldn't use the wah pedal because it became too thin and it didn't sound good anymore. So there was a period when I decided, let's forget about the wah pedal. I just do without, and so I just started using wah pedal once in a while. But since the Dimeback, I really loved that Dimeback wah pedal. Since that came out, you know, you have an EQ, you can make up for lost stuff, you know, and so. But I still don't use it that much. You know, I just kind of, I do other things, you know, but I depending on the, you know, I perform the most popular music of Michael Schenker, and depending on the songs I choose in the set, you know, it depends on how much wah pedal I use.
Yeah, yeah. I actually didn't realize that you had modified the pedal. I just thought you had back that they switched it on and then took your foot back off it a wee bit. So that's amazing to hear that you went in and tinkered with it to make sure that the furthest down bit was that famous sound.
Yeah, you know, I'm not very technical. I have no idea about guitar, you know, what all these names are for the different types of frets. I don't even remember what kind of pickup I have, you know, or anything. But, you know, I'm not technical, but I'm quite an inventor. I can invent things, you know, but technically I'm kind of useless.
Oh, that's probably more handy anyway. And what was it Marshall, the company that brought out that amplifier that you were talking about?
Pardon?
Was it Marshall that brought out that one that you said
Well, somebody in New York told me that this amplifier was the one I designed, the one I'm playing, and I don't know who he was. I don't know who he was connected to, or if he worked for Marshall or whatever, but it made sense because I designed one, but it never got built.
Yeah. That's amazing. And I take it, it's by the looks of things, it's still Marshall that you're using today.
Pardon?
Is it still Marshall amplifiers that you use these days?
Yeah, I still use that same amplifier, you know, since that other one broke. I mean, since '84.
Wow. And when you are going into the studio to record, do you largely use the same equipment that you would go on tour with? Is it the same kind of stuff?
Say again?
When you go into record in the studio, do you use the same equipment?
Yeah, it's all the same. Because the source is important, and the source is good for any situation. I even have it here.
Yeah, definitely. Is that with the JCM 800?
It's a 2205. It's like the problem is everybody's buying it, and it's sold out. And when my one breaks, actually I had a couple. You know, like one. I did a promo thing, and I took my amplifier. You know, I was promoting an album, and I was playing for people, and I took my amplifier, and then when I was finished, the guy, he said like, well, I'm gonna roll this amplifier, I'm just gonna go through the warehouse, and I was the other way. When I get back home, and I was going to unpack it, you know, to play it at rehearsal, it was a different amplifier. So somebody swapped it, and I had to look for a new one again. Over and over, you know. And then I found that it was so difficult to find them because everybody who loved my sound, you know, and found out what I'm playing, that they all bought it. And so sometimes it's very hard to find them, you know.
Hopefully Marshall will be able to sort you out with one whenever you want one, hopefully though, eh?
Well, you know, I don't know. I don't know what they're doing. You know, I'm not really in touch with them at all because I just play it. You know, I mean, I have never endorsed. Basically, I think there was maybe one time when I endorsed Marshall. I think it was at some point but you know, just with a picture in a paper or something. But I never really, you know, had an endorsement deal with them or anything like that. Anyway, I was never really that interested anyway. I know I've sold thousands of amplifiers for them, but I never focused on that kind of stuff. For me, it was the music, you know. I just want to find a great sound. I don't care about the rest, you know. Let's just do it.
Yeah, cool. And talking about music, am I right in saying there is a new album out early next year, Resurrection?
Yeah, on the 2nd of March 2018, it will be released, and we have a a great single out right now that's taking care of letting people know a little bit into what to expect. And I'm happy it was that song that was like one of the first ones ready, so we were able to complete it and get it ready for an early release. And all the singers are on there. It was the second song the second piece of music I wrote, and then Michael Voss, our co-producer, he overnight put vocals on it, like a melody and lyrics, and he told me, he said in the next morning, "Here, Michael, listen, what I have." And I said, "Michael, this is fantastic, this is perfect," and that became Warrior. And we did something similar to with the Last Supper. And I wanted to, I joked to Michael Voss in the beginning, like, let's just send out the 12 songs and maybe everybody picks coincidentally what they like and not the one that the other picks, but I didn't want to actually three songs for him, 3 songs for him. It would have been too clinical. I wanted to combine it and kind of have a few songs sing together, and that's what we ended up. Maybe not 3 or 4, but at least we did 2. And then we did some combinations of background vocals. Doogie, Gary, and I were singing "Cause Away," and then we had the band sing Warrior, and then we had like Graham Bonnet and Robin and Gary, I think they were singing some backing vocals. So it became really a very unique, and it was a very, so different from just making a normal record, and especially everybody was on a different continent, and getting ready, and we recorded in 5 different studios. So we did my guitars basically in Graven, like where Michael Voss's studio is in Germany, and then we did Doogie's vocals there, we did Gary's vocals there, we went to Stuttgart, we completed Warrior over there, we did some of Robin's and Graham's vocals in Stuttgart, and then we had a drum room for special drum sound, and then we had the and then for the stuff that was not completed by Robin and Graham, Michael Voss went to Los Angeles because they both lived there, and then he even had to fly over to Hawaii to record Kirk.
Wow, that must be a pretty different situation to how you would have recorded back in the day of everybody in the one place.
Yeah, that sucks anyway. In the old days, it's like, you have the band sitting in the control room while the producer is focusing on putting something together, and everybody quacks in the background, and the producer at some point goes, "Shut up!" It's actually those days they were actually very destructive, when everybody was partying and just open the door, banging the door, open the door, another joke. You don't get anywhere with anything, and that's probably why many bands ended up 2 years in the studio because they were more talking than playing or something. But I think the main thing is, today you can cut all of that stuff out. If I create a blueprint, because I focus on pure self-expression, so I don't want people bring too much from the outside world or from the trend into my, design. So I make it very much ready, including drums, so to make sure everybody understands if it's supposed to be double bass drum or mid-tempo, and the bass pattern, how that kind of needs to go with the drums in a certain way in order to make it sound unique. And so I built the blueprint as much as possible. Really, what's important at the end of the day is the personalities of the individuals, the groove of Ted, the way he plays, in between, and his upside down breaks that he puts in, and the solid raw sound of Chris Glenn, and then the sparkles of Steve Mann that he puts over on the keyboards or some guitar parts and stuff like that. So that makes the whole thing complete, and also especially for having 4 singers in the band, you want to make sure they understand the journey of the song, so that they get inspired in the right direction. And then of course Doogie White, I added Doogie White to it because, you know, he always called me up, Michael, when we do the next Temple of Rock album, I said, we just released, we have to make a little break here because we have been around for too long and we played the same cities over and over and we did 2 live albums and 2 studio albums and toured for 4 years. Everything happened in 4 years. So he kept calling. I said, you know what, Doogie, I have an idea. You join Michael Schenker Fest and you don't have to sing Armed and Ready anymore. You just sing Temple of Rock classics, you know. And so, you know, so we have current and past, and then because of this album, of course, the 3 singers, you know, Robin and Gary and Graham, because we made a new album, so everything becomes current also, and so basically, you know, yeah, I can't even remember now why I went that way, but never mind.
Oh, good. So are you taking all 4 of those singers out with you on tour next year?
Yeah, we actually. Hull, you know, we did a headline. We started a mini tour. You know, everything we started. The very beginning was in Sweden Rock. You know, and then from then on, we kind of stepped slowly, step by step. You know, and then we got an offer. Actually, we got an offer in 2006 to headline. 2016 to headline. The Loud Park near Tokyo. It's the 3rd biggest indoor arena in the world. It's 33,000 people. I said, who is headlining the day before? They said the Scorpions. I said, nope, I don't do it. Then the original, our usual promoter, I said, maybe next year, try again next year. So our usual promoter offered us 3 concerts. And so when I saw the venue in Tokyo, I thought Budokan, you know, and Budokan was never filmed. So I actually didn't even discuss this with anybody. I just financed it myself. I just hired the camera crew, hired behind the scene photographers and camera, and then the show was fantastic. I went to edit it in Germany, went to Michael Voss and mixed it in his studio, and then sold it to In Acoustic. So for the first time, people were actually able to see the potential of this band rather than looking through the iPhone recordings on YouTube. They were actually now seeing it, you know, properly. And so that was the next important step. And so basically we got 2007, and then at some point I was reapproached, you know, for 2017 to headline the Loud Park for 2017. And I said, well, who is playing the first day? And they said, Slayer. I said, okay, we do it. And then we had Gene Simmons from Kiss opening up for us, and Slayer had Alice Cooper opening up for them. Yeah, it was fantastic. So that was the beginning of our mini tour. First time touring, doing about 12 concerts, you know. And so we went over to Germany. We had another one in Osaka, went to Germany, to Holland, 3 shows in Spain and 4 in the UK. And Hull was the last concert with 3 singers, and that will never happen again unless somebody gets sick, or I don't know. But you know, so now we have a album is done, and I'm promoting it. I've been, you know, all over Europe in the last 15 days. You know, I started off in Paris, Milan, and 4 cities in Germany, and went to Scandinavia and Poland. That was yesterday, and came to the hotel at 2 o'clock in the morning. Got up at 6, and here I am doing this. You know, and so basically. You know, that was our first experience to tour on that level, you know. And Michael Schenker Fest is a much bigger undertaking than anything I have done before. So in 2018, on the 6th of March, 4 days after our release of the Resurrection album, we start an American tour, and it's a 2.5-hour show, and we're hoping that everybody is still standing by the end of it. You know, it's the next experiment.
Yeah, and are you coming across to Europe, and will we be seeing you in Scotland as well?
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, like we're already booking up to 2019. Of course, we have holes in it, and also, you know, we have a great record company now, you know, Nuclear Blast, and we made a great record, and everything has to fit together. So we need great promoters, you know. So we want to make sure as we move and as we go that, because we are developing a, what do you call it, like we're sending out waves of development, you know, and so that people get introduced of what this is, you know. And so nobody, I mean, not many people have heard this. I mean, actually nobody really has heard the album other than, you know, the people I do interviews with and stuff like that. But the people out there and promoters, etc., they have no clue. So we are hoping to develop and not really taking immature offers, because we have to make sure that the people can afford, you know. So we play everywhere where people can afford us, you know. But in order to do that, you need top promoters, not people who don't want to invest, you know what I mean? So you need professional people that, you know, do the proper job so that it is possible, because if you do it proper, you automatically get, you know, the more people, and the promoters, they, you know, can profit from that, etc., etc. So you don't want to do something that cannot be paid for, you know, and only top promoters can actually really make this possible. And so that's why we are kind of really careful on what we're committing with, you know. And the more of the album comes out, and the more the people hear this album, eventually people will come out of the woodworks, because they will understand what it is, you know. And I kind of rather, you know, the people who are ready to go for it, which we already have locked, we already having another tour in Japan coming up, and we are working on Europe. But again, you know, you don't want to do anything immature. It needs to be right, and we have a budget that needs to be, you know, met.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's worthwhile for everybody. That means the band, the promoter, and the audience, so that everybody gets like a really great experience out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talking about touring, obviously you've been in the industry since you were a very, very young man, and you've toured for decades. How does touring in 2017, 2018 compare with the 70s and 80s?
Touring?
Yeah, how does it compare to the old days?
Well, you know, everything is different all the time, because as you grow up, everything changes anyway. You know, nothing, you know, like when you said earlier, oh, everybody in the same room and stuff like this, that only happens when you are schoolmates. You know, you want to have a party, you go in this rehearsal room, you play guitar and you drink, you know. But you keep doing it, and you start developing something, you know. But as time moves on, you know, things change, things keep changing, you know. You all of a sudden, you start doing things differently, because certain things don't work. Like I said earlier, you don't sit in a control room trying to focus on finding a great sound and have everybody quack in the background. It doesn't work, you know. And so you want to make sure that that you leave, if there is a person, if the guitarist is in the control in the studio ready to do a solo, and the producer needs to focus on that, you don't want to hear anybody in the background talking or what. So, you know, you just get rid of everybody and just focus on the one that does the work at the moment. So that's the same way how things change over the years on the touring level, you know. Like, you know, maybe at some point, you know, like for instance, I love to travel just, you know, because, you know, of course I have things to do that are impossible for me to do on a tour bus, you know. So very often I just drive myself, and, you know, driving myself also is very good for me to meditate, to think about things, to figure out. And I cannot do what I do, I cannot be as creative if I am surrounded by people talking all day long. I have to go away from that, because if I don't do it, nobody else will be doing what I'm doing, you know. And so I know how and where is the best place and time, you know, to be creative, and you know, certain things you just can't do with people around you, you know.
Yeah, no, that was a great answer. Well, I think I've got enough time for one last question with you, Michael, and I'm thinking somebody of your huge amount of experience. I was thinking, what kind of advice would you give to a younger musician coming through the ranks these days about how to sustain such a long career?
How to?
About how to sustain like longevity and have a nice long career in the music business.
Oh, well, that depends. You know, first of all, it's really like, you know, who are you? Number one, you know, are you my brother or are you me? It's this big difference, you know. So if you want to just become rich and famous, your best bet is to stick with a trend that makes lots of money and just copy it and be part of it and take a piece of the pie. If you're an artist and you want to come up with something fresh and new and you want to be creative and you love that kind of being, then, you know, you kind of just, you know, do it from within yourself. You know, it really depends on what you want. You know, and so you have to ask yourself, what is it that makes me happy? You know, and if it makes you happy to be part of a trend, then go ahead and be happy that way. It's all fine. But also the thing is that that's why I said earlier in a different interview, it's like I'm very grateful that when I was 23 years old in '78, that I was able to taste the fame and success as its highest. And I was able, and I'm very grateful for that, I was able to make a choice. And I said to myself, do I need this? And I said, no. I don't need it, but I know what it is, and I will not miss it. I don't need it. So that's for my personality. Others, you know, they may not make that same decision. And even worse, if you have never gotten there, you will always think you're missing out. You will always. So that's why I said I'm grateful that I experienced it, because I know I'm not missing anything up there. But, you know, my whole development in the 3 stages of my life, you know, I am now in a place where I can enjoy all of those things, and nothing has to be. Nothing is a must. You know, I can just freely be myself and do what I do.
That's a brilliant answer. That sounds fantastic. Michael, we've come up to, I think, the end of our time with you. So that was an excellent conversation I had with you. Thank you very much for joining me. It was a real pleasure. And I would also just like to say thank you to Claire and Lisa from Nuclear Blast for hooking us up together. And yeah, we'll be seeing you next year then, and have a great time. Thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you.